So we have to see that the Zohar speaks about the demise of Sarah as it was not, uh, uh, let's say, phrased and praised in such a manner to any other lady or any other mother or any other figure, actually. So it speaks about a beginning of something, the root of something that starts to happen, which is the root of reformation. And in the root of reformation, all the future branches that will come out of it should be present there. So we see that the demise has in it a certain expression of completion. Okay. So when actually Sarah is forcing Abraham to come from the place of Beer Sheva, meaning the the well of that expressed 7, meaning a state of Malchut, as the 7th Sephira. And her demise caused Abraham, meaning the spirit, and as the Zohar is nominating Sarah as the body, as the will. The will is actually the consciousness, our consciousness, human consciousness of the spirit, or the possible consciousness and the choice that the will has to adapt itself to the journey of the spirit. So in a way, at that point, the will, which is Sarah, is causing Abraham to actually raise his, one can say, level, his spiritual level, or the consciousness of the service of the spirit to let's say, to existence, to all bodies. So it starts with the grace of burial. Okay? So in order to actually join the spirit to a joint endeavor with the will, there need to be a knot, need to be established, and the knot is the grave and the location of the grave. So grave becomes specifically the grave of Meaarat Hamachpela, which is called, it's one can call it the cave of duplication, or to multiply in terms of not to make it more, but to make it adaptable to something higher. So let's see how we perceive the cave. Okay. The cave, on one hand, can be sort of a description or a metaphor in its origin, meaning in terms of an actual place that is the new, or the discovery, human consciousness discovery of the way back to the Garden of Eden. The way back to Garden of Eden through this field and cave, meaning this process of impregnation in a field that has been worked out by us. So first thing that we're working out is through surrender. So it's surrender to the way of the inevitability of death for the corporal, And inside the will, or the corporal, which is an expression of a degree of will, there is the promise of the future, of coming back into the field, which field means a unifying possibility, or unifying consciousness that will allow human to receive the light of wisdom as it was before the fall, or before the sin of eating or from the fruit of the tree of knowledge, or the tree of good and evil. So actually, the death of Sarah, one can say, is paving through her ascension, is paving a holding possibility in our corporal life for finding our way back to the root of our origin, to the root of the stature of what it means to be Adam, meaning spirit and consciousness, spirit and will in unison. This is why it is said that the death of Sarah is it's called she died with a kiss. Meaning it's with a kiss, it means that the kiss in the term language, Kabbalistic term language, speaks about equalizing one's intention with the higher. So we speak about adhesion, we speak about screen. Only when we have a high screen, meaning a developed intention, the way the light is ascending or departing, one can say, is not through exposure of what is called the ending or the termination of the will through the revelation of what we call man'ula, which is to do with Malchut, before she's joined by Bina. The will, a naked will to receive the law that Malchut actually dictated to all creation, is when the light will touch that, it will depart from the will. It cannot stay. But dying in a way of a kiss, it means the lips or the screen is in such a way that it has a perfect match for the higher lip, if you like, or for the higher screen. The screen, all the screens of creation, and especially the screen that separates, one can say, Atzilut from the world of separations. So it is to do with mercy. There is a law that and usually it's not spoken much when we speak about the demise of Sarah. It is spoken that there is a connection between the binding sacrifice of Isaac, Akedah, and the death of Sarah. But it's always obscured in terms of what actually she knew about it, or what she chose to be, or how she chose to be in relation to that. So usually it is explained that when she heard or because she was a prophet, when she heard about the will of the Creator to sacrifice Isaac, for her it meant that the whole road and the whole path of the effort of herself, of Abraham and Sarah, to actually allow humanity to start its journey back and to reform, has been cancelled. Okay. This is one way to see that, and therefore she is ascending with a sense that there is no completion. But actually, the Torah in this portion speaks about completion, because the way it speaks about completion is the way that it specifies exactly her years, meaning all the light in all departments that was there for that will to establish the road had completed itself. So it is a bit contradictory to say that Sarah felt that she actually did not fulfill, or her will did not fulfill the mission, and yet Torah is saying that she died in fulfillment. And not only that, by death of kiss, meaning she never exposed the will to receive to oneself. It was always in the liking of Bina, in the liking of bestowal, in the liking of actually drawing near the nature and the quality of bestowal of the Creator. So we need to think about something else, which is there is a law that whenever death needs to occur, it needs to occur. If someone is being saved from the demise, there is some other life that has to come instead. So I would like to suggest that Sarah is choosing that. And that is her completion. She's choosing actually to fulfill her mission willingly. It's very similar to when we read about Rashbi, the demise of Rashbi. We read that at the day or at the time that Rashbi wanted or willed his death. So I would suggest that Sarah is giving her life, so the paved road that need to go through Isaac will continue. And that's her completion. This is apart from what she did actively, her death is a completion of the path. And therefore, it's sort of forced, in a way, as she forced Abraham all their life to understand the path that is need to go through Isaac, through the left side, through the valor, or through Gvura. Okay? She's actually bringing him to Hebron, which speaks about connection. The way a place that will call for connection, and not only that Hebron is a place of connecting things, but as well it's called Kiryat Arba. It means that it places Malchut as what is called the fourth leg of the chair of the throne, or what one can say. It's a completion, Kiryat Arba, which means it's to do with a city, or it's to do with a place that can be one can settle the light in oneself. So actually it's in a way it's crowning the possibility of the house of David, one can say, or the way that till the last day of reformation, the power and the force of the will of Sarah will actually admonish us, usher us into our possibility to reform without exposing the will to receive to oneself, or at least the way of work that belongs to that. Okay? So this is one can now start to look at the grave, and not so much in a way that it is expressed in English, but the way it is written in Hebrew, which is kever, which is to do with the way that you can gain closeness, intimacy. It's a passage. It's a passage to intimacy. It's a passage that actually weigh out and estimate all the work that has been invested of the life, of the will that this life expressed in its nearness and service to the spirit, and not only service to the personal spirit, but in service to the path that all humanity can take. Okay? So in that respect, we will see that in the story of this portion, there's always ways of looking at grace. It's the last grace that Abraham is actually forced to speak. He is forced to buy a land, meaning a hold in the corporal life, so he could actually bury. So it's as though it's like the Zohar is saying, it's like the spirit is saying to the wills that are afraid, or that are subservient, or to the fear of death, to the fear of temporality, to the fear of how we will be able to survive this existence. He's asking to be accepted as the citizen, as part, to sort of that the will allow him a holding point and a holding place in them. So this is the whole reading that we need to sort of surrender to. It's not surrendering only to the reading of that portion. It's that this portion allows us to surrender to the importance, and not to miss the moment of surrender before any study, because if we do not actually tie our wills to allow the spirit a holding space, a holding consciousness in us, we are actually denying all humanity this path back to its origin, or to its root. So I want to emphasize that actually the surrender of Sarah's life, in order that the path will stay open, meaning that Isaac will live and continue to establish the three ways road, or the three-way path for humanity, or for the internal path of humanity, so the external existence can actually, one can say, like if we think about the body, like the whole structure of the body is hanging upon the internal the internal bone structure. Yeah. So this is just to begin this whole reading of a conversation, one can say, between that in us which is so easily, I don't know if easily, or without any other option, without knowing that there is another option, becomes a slave to the fears and of the condition of existence. Okay, and one can say that there is an offering of an escape from this slavery through being in service to something higher. Okay. You see, actually the concept, it's explaining on one hand the relationship or the attitude of Sarah in relation to Hagar. Okay, so we understand, one can say that we start to understand Sarah through her death, what she tried actually to establish. Okay, so we're saying that there is a part which has many levels. It has the level of the person and the internal struggle of the will and the spirit, and the settlement and the connection of working together. In that respect, we have actually the question: to what end do you use your will? Meaning, to what it serves, what your will serves, or what my will serves. If there is choice, meaning that there is an awakening of the consciousness, or what we call the point in the heart. So in a way, it is usually when we come into it, let's say when we come to the house of Sarah and Abraham, meaning when we come to the house that there is a covenant of agreement, and here comes this part which is used to serve itself, and is offered actually a partnership. And instead of actually looking or looking for the ways that it can further the cause of the master, it's furthering the cause of itself. Let's say, impersonal, it is the question: why actually in every moment of our study we have to be sort of on guard, watching what is the purpose and why, from what is the reason or what is the fuel that we use for our study or for our prayer. Okay, so this is internally, which is internal and external debate of what actually serves what. Okay, so the surrender is actually choosing. So this is in a person. So of course, when you start, or when something in you allows the decision or the choice of serving something which is not self-benefiting, actually then start the consciousness of lo lishma, or start the consciousness of the power of the servant. Okay, the power of the servant to actually tie itself to the purpose or not. Or when it ties itself to the purpose, it tries to actually take the role of the lady or the mistress of the house, meaning the role of Shekhinah or the role of Sarah. Now the same is true in historical terms in relation to Kabbalah and let's say Torah without Kabbalah, without the commentary, one can say, of Kabbalah on Torah. So you're saying that you're reading Torah, or everyone can read Torah, and actually tie it to their cause, or explain it according to actually the will to receive at that point. So it has to do as well now with the internal definition of the will to serve as Israel, and the external, which should be the slave, which actually take upon itself to be masters of the internal, or masters of Israel, or to enslave them, or to ghetto them, or to actually hold them as subservient to them. So one can see that one can see it in the path, or in the story of the personal journey, and in the story of the human journey. Okay, so this is what it speaks. It speaks about what Israel need to serve, what it need to actually pave the path, and what kind of lights it need to draw into the existence, into the reality, into what there is possible in human consciousness at let's say at a given time. And if Israel is not fulfilling its purpose, there is an external force like Haman that is basically threatening their continuation or their purpose, and their continuation and their purpose is to do with their existence. So when there is a threat to their existence, there is it's a whole line from the existence to the purpose. So if you sort of position a will like Pharaoh, or a will like Haman, that is threatening the sheer existence. It's not the existence of specific bodies, it's the existence of this possibility for human being as a whole. Okay? Because this is what happens. So this is the first time there is, let's say, elevated enough consciousness and spirit that can join and open this, one can say, that tunnel of reformation for the whole. So maybe if we listen carefully to the beginning and how the Torah through Zohar actually opens it up for us. So I'll read first, it's chapter 23 in Genesis. Verse 1, and it starts, and Sarah was 107 years old. These were the years of the life of Sarah. And Sarah died in Kiryat Arba. The same is Hebron in the land of Canaan. And Abraham came to mourn for Sarah and to weep for her. And Abraham stood up from before his dead and spoke unto the sons of Chet, saying. Now we have to listen as though the Spirit is speaking to the people of the land, to the wills. And those wills they have two descriptions, two denominations. One is Canaan and the other is Chet. Canaan is a slave of slave. Okay? One can say that it's a fallen surrender. It's a surrender to all our desires, to the desires of existence, through the whole range of the desire of the body, one can say, of the corporal life. And more than that, this servitude or surrender to the fears, this is called Chet. Chet is fear. So this is how Abraham, after mourning, meaning after actually, what happens when you mourn for 7 days, let's say, okay? When you mourn someone's demise or someone's death. Actually, many things happened, but in internality, one can say that everything that from that life was invested in you is separated from you. And this is the pain we feel. The pain is the separation of that presence that actually collects itself in its ascent. So there is, through the, one can say, through the holes and pain that it leaves us with, we can actually appreciate or estimate in true terms the presence of that life in us. But usually we're so busy with ourselves, so we're not mourning the death, we're mourning our pain, or we're mourning the fear of how we will live without it at that moment. Okay. So when Abraham without Sarah cannot continue his journey, because the journey of the spirit must have a body, otherwise it cannot fulfill the journey. So it is that the death of Sarah actually forced Abraham to find and to speak to all the wills, because otherwise he will not be able to fulfill, or let's say, the template of the spirit journey down here, to fulfill it to collect the sparks. Yeah? So only when he raised up, so the death of Sarah caused in him an upgrade of the spirit consciousness, one can say. And therefore, it's like the spirit start to speak to all those wills that are Canaan, that are slave of slaves in us. Okay? That are slave to the lowest, or to the unmeaningful desires of our existence. And Abraham, verse 3, and Abraham stood up from before his dead and spoke unto the sons of Chet, saying. So now it's a description of the state, how the spirit feels when actually she's descending here. I am a stranger and a sojourner with you. Give me, allow me, give me a possession of a burying place with you, that I may bury my dead out of my sight. And the children of Chet answer Abraham, saying unto him, Hear us, my Lord, thou art a mighty prince among us. In the choice of our, one can say, it's called it's the best, it's the best bury, you can bury your dead. None of us shall withhold from thee his sepulchre, a place of birth, but that thou mayest bury thy dead. Okay. So you may connect yourself into this land. Okay. And then there is a conversation with Ephron. Okay. Ephron without a vav, it means something which is called afar, the dust of the earth. Okay. There, Abraham is choosing the field, and because the cave is there. Yeah. So the choice is to go to the lowest matter, that it's like it's going back to the creation of Adam, when there is a blow of life, like the spirit is blowing life into the dust of the earth and giving it a new hope or a new path. Yeah. So it means this is actually settling when we actually perceive that the part or the power in us that is willing to serve every desire of ourselves, or even the desire of others, or the desire of the ecology that, or the surrounding we live in, actually is given a choice to serve something else. And when it chooses actually to serve the spirit, then you understand actually that you recruited the nature of the servant and it's not yet reformed, and that is called lo lishma. And what actually is happening through that is that you discover that all the time the servant part or quality is trying to undermine actually the definition of the purpose. It all the time tries to actually take control. Okay. So this is actually the reason why we need to reset, surrender, and scrutinize and look at ourselves every time we want to continue the path. We have to speak, or to allow our spirit, as Abraham, through the power of the will, or the willpower of Sarah, to speak to those who are canine, or Knaanim, that Canaanites, one can say, or the sons of Chet in ourselves, to allow them actually to ask them, to allow the connection, and through that the sorting out of the wills. Okay, so this is where it actually starts, and that particular field of work or particular cave. So the cave is the gate back to Eden, back to the way we can receive wisdom, or if you like, the way we can study, we can truly study with the true purpose of studying and praying as a result of it. And as well to see that the only way we can do it is through actually asking the patronage or the mistress, which is Bina, to, one can say, to extend her cover over us, because Bina is the source of the spirit. Okay. Bina is actually how Sarah is calling the spirit into connection, into actually a covenant with the will that express life here on earth. Okay. So